All right, we'll give everyone a minute here to funnel in, and then we'll kick things off. Righty. Good stuff. Well, maybe one more minute here. All right, so why don't we kick it off? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another session of the Neota Network. This is one of our live sessions, so a chance to engage with all of you, to ask questions, to get some real-time feedback, and in general have picked the brains of our two esteemed colleagues here. So this is the session on streamlining and simplifying business processes with no code. And we are very, very fortunate to have two experts joining us. So we have Alice Collins, Legal and Commercial Head of Data and Innovation at Fujitsu, and then as well, Adam Hellier, who is the Interim Head of Procurement and IT over at Condé Nast. But why don't we take a minute, Alice, why don't I hand it over to you? Just a little introduction of yourself and your experiences with Neota. Great.
Yeah, of course. So hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Alice Collins, and I am the Head of Legal, Data and Innovation at Fujitsu, which is a global IT company. My role is very much focused on all aspects of innovation and legal technology, from technology horizon scanning to problem identification, requirement scanning, design, development, so the whole product lifecycle. And also from a data point of view, I again work with everything to do with data, from data collection, data storage, data analysis, data visualization. So it's really the breadth and depth of innovation and data. I've been working with Neota for a few years now. We have currently got 3 applications built into Neota, which I can just briefly give you an overview on what they are. The first one, and it was the very first thing that we ever built with Neota, is what we call a deal risk assessment tool. And this is a tool that we've built into the platform that can measure risk in our deals in a consistent and efficient way. So it's built through intelligent branching questioning forms with risk calculations behind each answer. And so as a user goes through and fills in the questionnaire, behind the scenes, there's lots of calculations taking place. And what the tool does is it can output a risk report that has a risk rating on it, and it also details to the user the areas of their contract that are considered risky and what they could do to try and de-risk the contracts. So that was the very first tool we built into Neota, and from then we've built on that. So we've also built a legal request tool, so a simple ticketing-based system for legal support, where a user can come and request legal support or ask a question, and it's got workflow management in there so that it has automated triaging, and it can route it through to the correct lawyer, and that lawyer can then go back into the system to provide that support. And then the third application that we've got with Neota is something that we've been building at the moment, and we actually went live with our first wave of that last week, and that's our contract automation tool. So that is a tool to automate the creation of legal documents so that a lawyer is not involved in any of that process. And it also provides the guidance on what the user is supposed to do once they've created that document. So we've really built this tool to reduce the low complexity work that our lawyers are undertaking so that they can move up that complexity curve. And as I said last week, we went live with the first bit of that. So we're in that testing phase at the moment.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. That's great to get new tools out there and new use cases. So fantastic. Thank you, Alice. And Adam, over to you. It'd be great to hear about your background and a little bit about your experience with Neota.
Yeah, thank you very much. And hi, everyone. So I'm Adam Hellier. I'm Interim Head of Procurement. I'm also our IT and Digital Procurement Category Manager. So for Condé Nast, so a global digital and media publication company. So we've been working with Neota now probably since the start of the year. We have been building a supplier onboarding platform based on Neota, and it's really bringing together processes that were previously manual, really to bring on board our suppliers to ensure that procurement engaged at the right level, and also to look at raising flags for around legal, data privacy, sustainability, information security, and then ultimately to pay our suppliers, going through to finance and putting those payment details into our finance systems. And this is really something that we're just in one market at the moment, and we operate in 11 markets around the world. But it means that we can scale these operations. We can capture all of our suppliers regardless of spend, and ensure that our suppliers and our business is compliant as possible. And it really does bring together a unified user journey for our suppliers and also for our users who are requesting suppliers to be brought on board. And through that system means we can scale up really easily and translate into local language and move this across our business to make sure we capture all of our suppliers and to get them paid and get them paid with the right payment terms. And it really does unify our processes there.
Awesome. What very process driven it seems like on both of those, on all the solutions mentioned. So that's really cool. Wow, very robust. And I'm Max Patterson, the VP of Customer Success here at Neota, and excited to dig in. For everyone who's joined us, feel free to post some questions in the Q&A, and we'll sort of run those through as we get them. But in the meantime, why don't we dig into a little bit more on what process automation means to you? Like how do you see that as a general concept, and how you try and implement that using Neota or not using Neota? It'd be good to just sort of talk about the overarching term a bit.
Yeah, so I'll go first with that one. I think it's really so that process automation for us is taken away from a Word document or a PDF being sent out to a supplier or engaging our end users. It really does mean by using a platform that it formalizes that process. It makes it easier, and people engage with one central point for the platform, whereas previously it could be multiple people and you could miss out steps just through human error. And I think through that automation of process, it really does, it tidies that up and makes sure it's as streamlined as possible and as efficient as possible for both sides, certainly for us.
Yeah, I completely agree. From being a global company, and we've got lawyers all around the world, finding a way that we can standardize that process so that everyone is doing as similar as possible with the required regional jurisdictional changes that are required, giving people that one way that they know how to access it and they know how to use it, but also standardizing the output. So making sure that what's coming out of the system is something that everyone knows what it is, everyone's aware of what the potential risk levels around that is, and making sure that it's a really automated process that everyone around the world, or even if you're not global, everyone in the same country is aware of what that is.
Yeah, that's an interesting piece actually, because then it leads you to, you want to boil the ocean, right? You want to tackle every piece of process possible. You want to make everything absolutely efficient, but we know that's all not very possible. So how, do you have any tips or tricks on how to identify those areas that you should tackle first, or is there a particular way that you identify the right areas for process automation that could have the most effect, let's say, or the most global effect? Like wondering how you evaluate these.
So I'll go first on this one. So I think it depends where you are in your journey. I think if you're at the very, very beginning of your journey, you need to look at the low, and I do hate this term, but it is that low-hanging fruit. It's taking the quick wins, because until you've got people bought into the concept of process automation, then anything you try to implement will in effect fail. So I think if you're at the very, very beginning, then you need to be looking at those easy things, the way that you can get the most benefit back very, very quickly and with the least amount of effort. I think if you're a bit further down the line, I don't think it's possible for us to say you should automate this or you should automate that. But I think it's looking at sort of three key things. I think the first is around looking for where you can make extreme efficiencies that cannot be solved by anything else. So they can't be solved by process people. And those, and if there's inefficiencies and they have a significant impact on you being able to scale, then that could be an area where you could look at process automation. But these need to be quite, large inefficiencies. These are not small things. I think the second thing is about size, and it's about the size of a problem. That has a direct influence on whether you should process automate. If you've got something that's big enough and you can worry about that maintaining of the knowledge and maintaining of the solution for a long time, because a lot of work has to go into that with process automation, then it's worth doing. If you've got a small problem, there isn't really that much behind it, it's probably not worth automating. And then I think the third one, which is, it's a bit more broad, but it is looking at business need. And I think if there's something that you can't do in a current platform that you've got, and the company is saying that they want it, there's no other way to provide that, that's when you can look at process automation as well.
Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
And I certainly reiterate with, just to reiterate with that as well. And I think something that has stuck with me from previous organizations as well, it's a case of there's no point automating just for the sake of it. If you can do it better than you did manually, then automate. If it works better manually, don't need to automate it. Don't automate just for the sake of it. It's something that we've done with the platform, certainly from a sort of due diligence point of view. We almost had a blanket sending out questionnaires for information security and data privacy to almost every single vendor, certainly in my space, in my normal day job within IT. That doesn't always fit. And by automating for us, it means that when the right flags are raised, that's when you ask the questions. You don't ask the questions for everyone. And certainly in our business, where we work with a lot of content creation and editorial content, there's no point asking those vendors around information security, which you potentially could do by normal practices. By using the system and automating the processes, you're only asking the relevant questions. And that really that adds the value and takes away some of the blockages that you may have.
That's, that's an interesting point to jump on as well there, Adam, which is, tech might not always be the answer, that sometimes there's, evaluations that you could be done to find efficiencies just naturally in the way things are done. However, on that sort of softer sides of sort of, you have to change practices as well. And actually, we just got a question in from the audience here, and they mentioned you're both in global businesses. So, and they have a question about how you introduce these digital practices to the bigger business. What's change management like across regions, languages, cultures, and how do you try and overcome that?
So I think it's a really good question, and I don't think anyone's got a foolproof answer for you on that. But how we have gone about it is, the first thing we've done is, so this year we've made a real push to make what we're calling digital transformation, but you could call it anything. We're making it a proper stream within our business. So we've appointed a head of it, and his role is entirely focused on this digital transformation piece. And then I'm within that team. We've got others within the team. So the first thing we've done is we've made it a real key strategic part of the business and where we want to go. And our vision aligns with the vision of our overall Fujitsu as a whole. So I think really carving it out as something that's part of what you want to do as a business is really important. And then what we've done is we've identified individuals in each of our regions, which we've called our DX officers. And that part of their day-to-day role is now ensuring that DX is implemented and technology is implemented and process automation is implemented in their areas. And they take what we give them as the central team, and they then ensure that it is adopted into their region. We ensure that, so for example, my contract automation module, we've had to build that for all the different regions, and we've built in different templates for the different regions. We've built in different languages for the different regions. So we're not starting from a UK point of view or an American point of view. We're really trying to start from a regional point of view and make sure everyone feels like they are a central key to this. So I think there's a lot more to be done, but that's sort of the brief answer to that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's a journey that we're going through at the moment. Really, it's engaging with our markets, engaging the appetite for this. You know, this is something that's coming. It's being driven by our finance and operations teams, ultimately to get people paid and get suppliers paid, but also we want to keep to our
That's important. Terms. Yeah, that's very important.
It is important, but we don't necessarily want to pay them, you know, as soon as maybe the end user wants. They need to be within our payment terms. But it's something that we're working through with, you know, translating the system, making sure that it's fit for purpose by our end users that are making requests into the system, and also the suppliers that will engage with the system. You know, we need to make it manageable. And the other part that we're doing, where we have questions that at the minute are very Europe-centric, we'll adapt. And it's very easy to do, to change those forms and those questions within the system to adapt to other markets, to bring that change control. And when we do, certainly from a finance point of view, or that we engage with those leaders within our finance teams in our markets, they want this because they want to have that control, and also to streamline that process. You know, with the platform, it's branded in line with the Condé Nast branding, so it looks and feels like it's our product, which is great for security point of view for our suppliers. They know they're engaging with Condé Nast. They know they're being asked these questions and why they're being asked them, and they're being onboarded. And ultimately, their payment details are going straight into our finance system for them to be paid. And that gives that scale that we can then move quickly across our markets and deploy.
Interesting. And actually, that's we've had a few people on the chat here just come up, or question and answer come up, and you know, hearing those use cases that you had mentioned, you know, finding those areas of optimization and automation. Is there a way that you collect ideas, evaluate ideas? Is there a way that, like, have you found an efficient way to go out into the business and collect those ideas, or is it more fact finding, or do they come to you? It'd just be great to sort of dig into a little bit about how you create your pipeline and evaluate these concepts.
It's something that we've done with launching with our headquarters in the UK. By running a pilot, we're taking feedback and then evolving as we go through. You know, really taking that feedback for things that do work, maybe things that don't work, and a lot of that's process driven, and that's where we're feeding that back in, revising workflows, working with the Neota team to implement those to improve the system as we go through. And we're starting within a key area in the UK, but then we're moving through our other key markets to take on board that, ready before we crack our biggest market, which will be the US. You know, that's half of our business. So we're taking those steps, gathering those feedback from end users and also from suppliers, and also the people that we have within our system, you know, the likes of legal, finance, information security, sustainability, and within procurement, within our team, to ensure that the system keeps evolving in the right way, gathering that feedback and growing the system to make sure, you know, it's as good as possible.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat everything Adam just said, because it's exactly the same for us. Whenever we implement something, the testing regime it's quite intense, is probably the word I'd use, to make sure that we are understanding what is working and what isn't. We've definitely found over the years that the first thing we implement, we know is going to be not good. And I think that's something that you need to be prepared to deal with when you release your first version of something, because usually you've only had maybe a handful of people working on it, and as soon as you've got 20, 30 people testing it, they will come up with lots of things that don't work, lots of things that could be better, and that's good, and that's what you want. But you do have to develop a certain thick skin to be able to take that feedback, because it can be hard sometimes when you spend a lot of time. But generally, about other things to process automate, that's one of the reasons we set up the central team. If people have ideas, they can come out, they can reach out, they can say what they are. We have had a couple of those actually in the last year or so, and it is always really interesting, because quite often they'll be identifying a problem that maybe we don't see. So it's definitely worth having those open communication channels.
And actually, you bring up another interesting point, Alice, where you have all of this input coming in, and obviously, controlling those voices and picking and choosing what next versions are. What about keeping these solutions evergreen and relevant? And it sounds like some of your solutions are new, and a lot of this is groundbreaking. But it'd be good to talk through a little bit about the plan to have that continual feedback or continuous improvement. And any recommendations you have on how to tackle that, or outstanding questions even. Yeah, Alice, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. So I'm in such a fortunate position on this point, in that we've built our team so that I work very, very closely with one of my colleagues. My role, if you think of the project lifecycle, is the first part. So I'm there for what I think is the fun bit. I do the design, I do the development, I do the implementation. And then once it moves into managed service, I hand it over to my colleague, and her team do the management of that application. And what this puts us in is a really, really good position, so that I don't have to worry about that day-to-day management of the tool, and I can start working on that continual improvement piece. So I think the deal risk assessment tool is a great example of this. We implemented our version 1, it was 18 months ago now. And I've just released our version 2. And what I included in the version 2 that wasn't in the version 1 was where people had been using the tool and they'd been identifying areas that they wanted to gather risk in, which we hadn't considered. A really good example of that is compliance. So we had no way to measure our compliance risk in the first version of the tool. It was identified that this would be a really good thing that we could do. So I've been then working with our compliance colleagues to develop in our new compliance risk questions. So now the tool that we've released is version 2, has lots more areas that we can gather risk. And we got that 100% through feedback from people. It was very little of us saying, this needs to look best like this. It was much from that user feedback.
So that's directly led into that version 2, and then it's the loop, keep the loop going.
Definitely. And now we've got the version 2 released, it's going, well, what's version 3? And actually, we already have that pipeline of what's going to be in version 3, because as you're developing version 2, you're already thinking about version 3. But it's really important drawing that line and doing that version 2 release, and then focusing on version 3, or otherwise you'll spend your entire life developing and never releasing anything.
The never-ending app, it'll never get out. They're still working on it. Yeah, still making it better. Great. Yeah, and Adam, it'd be great to hear about how you're putting in mind for, and especially you had mentioned sort of the aspect of a global release. So is that something that, as each new piece goes out, are you thinking about different versions, or do you think about it as a whole as well?
So our model is looking at a whole version. It's very much a case of taking the one blueprint, almost say in the UK, translating that into another language. There will be some changes in there, but a lot of our, so we have our due diligence questionnaires, they're in PDFs, so you can easily take one version out, swap it in for a local country version. Certainly when you get outside of the EU, when you get in the realms of GDPR, when it changes in Asia and in the US. So we have one version, but I think that's also one version that we will adapt. So that means that you adapt it for one market. Actually, that's going to feed back to still that master version. All you're doing is you're scaling that version and you're moving it out and adapting as we go along. A lot is a learning curve, certainly within our business, because when you in my normal space within IT, yes, that's going to be the same across every market. But we will, within the way that our business works, because we are very content driven just by the nature of our business, we won't come across new scenarios in other markets. So that's where we will adapt and bring on board so many vendors within each market each year. You're going to come across new circumstances, and we will use that to learn, to make sure that our workflows fit in line with that. So, for instance, we're looking at one at the moment where should we put a new workflow in for low risk vendors that actually can go through the system much quicker, that shouldn't raise any flags. So we're constantly revising to make sure, and we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. What we're asking from a due diligence point of view has been out there for a very long while. It's just making sure it's as slick as possible, that it's raising the right flags at the right time, and it's not raising flags unnecessarily, so that that journey is smooth through from that initial request coming in, going through to payment at the back end.
Interesting. And actually that brings up another good point of sort of evaluation of the solution. And I know we've sort of tackled sort of pieces around it, but I'm wondering, if there's a special sauce or anything on how you measure success. Is there particular reporting that you look at, or is there additional feedback that you get from other systems, anything like that? Just wondering if there's any particular way you measure any solution success.
One thing that we're looking at. Sorry, Alice.
Sorry.
No, you go, Adam.
Start. Why don't you start at the top, Adam? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
My fault for just throwing these things out there. Yeah.
We're eager to answer. Yeah, no, the one thing that we're looking at the moment actually is what did it look like before? What was the times before to run these through the process compared to now? And that's not necessarily, initially it may not be, it's so much better, but that's what we're aiming for. You're aiming to make that journey better for everyone. And that's what we're going to aim for. And that's a success. The success is when everything goes through. Really don't have people trying to go outside of the system, the process that we put in place. When people actually accept that that's the way it goes through, it's the easiest way to get it into our finance system rather than emailing some payment details. It's more secure. And certainly for suppliers, they know their banking details are in our finance systems to get paid. And that's obviously key for them.
So for us, it's a really pertinent question for us, is there's quite a lot of focus on sort of measuring that ROI. So at the moment, I think the biggest thing I'd say is the data. So it's ensuring that whatever system you build, you ensure that you can collect data from it, because data will ultimately be able to be the thing that you can prove tangibly the improvement that whatever you've implemented has worked. So for us at the moment, we work on a dashboarding system. So we create a lot of dashboards, so a lot of visual. We like to visualize our data in a way that people can conclude the things that we want them to conclude from it. But we're actually about to start a new project where we're going to work with one of our external partners around how to properly calculate the ROI of everything we're doing. Because at the moment we're going through this digital transformation, we've got all this data, but how can we prove to everyone that all of this time, this effort, this money we've spent has had that benefit? So if you want to ask me this question again in 3 months, I can give you probably a much better answer about how we're going about doing that beyond just analyzing and visualizing our data.
Yeah, but I guess it'll always get better, right? As the process goes on, and different data points start to emerge, right? As you get to know the data more, you can sort of drill a little deeper. That's great. I wanted to just sort of shift gears a little bit and move back into the platform because I know a lot of the people listening are interested in how you've been able to leverage the platform, leverage Neota well to get these very robust systems out there. So wondering if there's specific personas or specific people within the organizations that have really taken to Neota, or others that, you think might benefit from it, further on down the road, if there's sort of new ways you're looking to engage with the platform or ways that you found have worked really well to engage. Alice, why don't we go to you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think when Neota's worked so well for us, and the reason that we are now building so many platforms on it, is it's so flexible in what you can do. So we have a general rule that if you can do it in corporate IT, do it in corporate IT. And if you can't do it in corporate IT, do it in Neota. So Neota is the platform that we utilize to build probably all of our automated solutions. And what works so nicely about it is how easy it is to learn to build in it. So the no code ability of it means that we've got people building in it who are who had absolutely no technical experience before. Before I started building in it, I had a bit of technical experience, but I was in no way an expert. And it takes something that is out of reach generally, this coding and developing, and it makes it something that we can now do in-house. So I think for us, from the development point of view, that's why we like it so much. From the user point of view, in terms of people engaging with it and using it, I think Adam's probably already touched on it a lot, but you can really customize it to make it look like a Fujitsu application. So for us, as Adam's done, we've made all our applications look like they're Fujitsu applications, and we've integrated it with our single sign-on. So anyone who uses it can just click on it and they can get through it through the single sign-on mechanism, which makes interacting with it really easy. People don't have to remember their credentials. So for us, from a user point of view, it's that seamless transition between Fujitsu systems and the Neota system that makes it so good.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. And Adam, how about yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I echo what Anna said there about single sign-on. It's something that we've done. You know, we've set it up. We've trained various requesters in the business, but only certain people have it, and only certain people have that tile and that single sign-on. So it makes it really secure from that point of view. And as I've mentioned before, you know, the use of the platform is very much, initially it was very much viewed as being, you know, it's a procurement system. It's not a procurement system. Yes, procurement initiated the process, but it's a collaboration between procurement, information security, data privacy, legal, finance, sustainability, all having an input into this system, all being key stakeholders for this system. And it's worked really well. And, you know, there's parts of our team that have, with the no code element, are learning to do the development for it. You know, they're taking that next step on, so that it's our platform that we're working with, that we're developing, and that we're working through. And that's key. That's one of the main elements why we selected Neota. When we ran our process sort of the back end of last year, start of this year, that was one of the winning parts for us, because that's what you want. You don't, you know, it's not our IT team we need to get involved. We want our team. And the other piece that we're looking at with it is linkage through APIs into our content management system, which we're creating at the moment, our finance system, which we're rolling out across the globe. Through the APIs that we can connect to Neota, our system starts becoming integral to all of those, because none of them work without the other, because we're ingesting suppliers through there. So you're either vetting them in the system, outside of the system, and then into the system to make sure you pass through to another. You take that link out, it's not going to work as well. But with Neota in the middle, everything will work seamlessly, and they all align to each other. Great three-way conversations we're having between those three different project teams to make sure that they interconnect and flow together.
Yeah, and we always like to, you know, try and pat ourselves on the back that we play well with others. You know, the Neota system is great on its own, but it's even better if, you know, you can take things from and pass things to other systems. So that's great. Yeah, thank you, Adam and Alice. And I want to just, before we start to wrap up and sort of move on with the Neota network, I wanted to do a little bit of sky gazing, just a little bit of pulling out the crystal ball. We have a question here from the audience. Just, you know, where do you see automation of processes and expertise, you know, going 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Just any big plans on the horizon, or just you know, where you see the industry moving? Yeah, Alice, why don't we start with you? I know that's a tough one to try and predict anything these days. Yeah.
So I think for us, and I think in Fujitsu, we are still at that point, and what we'll still be doing, I think, for the next few years, is that automating of those basic things. So we're doing a lot of work in terms of automating our ticketing, automating that work allocation, automating our reporting. We've done a huge amount over the last few years. We've made massive strides in this area, but I think we now need to go through an area of consolidation. We need to make sure that what we're doing is the best it can be, and we're improving the things that we've got. So I think we've done a lot in Fujitsu in the last couple of years, where we've been asking people to change the way that they work. And I think, and I know something that we want to do going forward is to be doing some things that are giving back as well. So we're giving the lawyers, and we're giving our commercial people, and we're giving our business back technology that has an immediate impact in terms of their day-to-day job and what they're doing. So I think from a Fujitsu point of view, that there's a lot of effort on that for us. I think in the market, I think it's a really good question. I think from from a legal standpoint, which is obviously what I'm in, I think there is we're still far behind some of the other sectors. I think that's a fair fact, and I think that a lot of what we need to do, and a lot of where effort needs to go, is moving away from having lots and lots and lots of small different suppliers providing one thing and lots of people doing that, to being a much more consolidated and much more integrated network of technology suppliers that can do multiple things. And I do think that's where Neota has done very well. And you're not just offering that one product, you're offering multiple things.
Yeah, the platform approach for sure. And
yeah.
And like you said, feeding things back into the business, back in the hands of lawyers, you're only creating more problems for yourself, because then they get more ideas. You feed the cycle. So that's
yeah.
really, yeah. And the platform really is made to stretch your creativity. How far can we all take this thing? And I think on our side, we're always developing to see what your expectations are, and move from there. Great. And Adam, a little bit of stargazing. How do you see things developing?
I think at the moment for us, we need a lot of human intervention, and we have a lot of questions. How much can we automate? I think that's very much stargazing. What can we automate? What AI can be brought in to make some of these decisions that relies on someone being there to open up the link to the questionnaire, to review the questionnaire, to approve it. Yeah, it's very much a stargazing one. It's one that we would like. There's via AI or algorithms in there that allow some of these questions to be answered and not have that human intervention unless there's an issue that needs to be investigated more. I know something that's what we'd love to look at in the next couple of years. We don't need to run before we can walk. The minute we want to get this rolled out to all of our markets, get it running smoothly, and then really understanding what is out there, what can be done to automate even more, to really get this even smoother.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good problem to have once you realize you've over automated. You can sort of find that balance of the right type of intervention. So great. Well, I think that's everything we have. I'll put one more sort of call out for questions to the audience. But in the meantime, just want to thank Alice, thank Adam for your time. Thank you for joining us today and sharing about the solutions you built and how your vision of process automation is actually coming into fruition, and how you're executing on things, because I think that's really fantastic. And thank you everyone for joining us today for another session of the Neota Network. We had tons of content yesterday, a lot more early this morning for some of you. Our APAC region was sort of going overnight for people in the mainland Europe, UK, and then as well in the Americas. So there's lots of replay content there, and then a lot more to come today. So thank you again, Alice. Thank you again, Adam, for joining today. And thank you to everyone who also was able to join us. And we look forward to another session of the Neota Network. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Cheers.